She already told me.
Oh, wait a minute.
Electrical.
I have 6:30.
Yeah, and I've just lost my agenda.
Let's.
Yeah, always. Okay, if everyone could take their seats, please. Well, good evening, everyone. This is the beginning of the May meeting for the Historic Preservation Commission. And it's good to see people sitting out there looking this way instead of us looking out at empty chairs. So it's always nice to see people out there. So this evening, I think we'll start with roll call, please, Robin.
Chair Stevens, before I start with roll call, do you mind if I make a couple introductions? All right, I would first like to introduce our new council member liaison, Bob Mabry. He will be replacing Ed Marshall in that position, and we're happy to have him.
Thank you.
And we're also very excited to have our alternate Elizabeth Broyles with us. Elizabeth Broyles is not new to this commission. She has been with us in the past as our Planning and Zoning Commission liaison, but presently she's our alternate, and we'll see in the future. So those are the two introductions I wanted to make this evening before roll call.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, so Commissioner Hensick. Chair Stevens.
Present.
Vice Chair Bacher.
Present.
Commissioner Quarternick.
Present.
Commissioner Bertolo is not with us. Alternate Broyles.
Here.
Alternate Larson.
Present.
Council Member Liaison Mabry.
Here.
And Council Liaison Rambo. Our HPC Advisor Scott. And our Commissioner Raggy Rahman. And Commissioner Boyd.
Here.
All right, we do have quorum.
Thank you. Well, it's my last time to be sitting in this position. I've had a marvelous time. And I can't even come up with the exact date I started as an alternate, but it's back more than 6 years ago. We know that for sure. So it's been great, and I appreciate all the help that everyone has given through the time. And as I've said several times, I'm hooked on historic preservation. Used to say I was hooked on phonics when I was teaching the young ones, but historic preservation has taken that place. So if we'll stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Debbie, would you lead us tonight, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the which stands
One nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the Historic Preservation Commission minutes from the April 24th meeting. Is there anything to be added to them? Taken out, or do we need to address that, Robin?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I just wanted to note that we did amend the minutes since I've placed it in your packets. Under public comment, Carl Essen stated he had been working hard to develop the family trees for the Schott and Essen families. He noted Louis Schott, who died in 1858, was buried in the Essen family cemetery. We are removing what came after that in the sentence, which is, and may have married Kathleen Essen. This turned out to be an error, and so we are just removing it from the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any corrections for the minutes tonight? Then they will be approved by general consent as corrected. Thank you. Public comment.
Madam Chair, we do have Doris Keevan Frankie here this evening to speak to us regarding her Network to Freedom submission. Thank you.
Good evening. I just thought I'd give a little update and share the summary of what this project is all about and what the submission will be telling the story of. The House Ferry crossing on the Underground Railroad. At 3 a.m. on a cold Sunday morning in February 1863, 16 freedom seekers began a quest to secure their freedom and cross the Missouri River at Howell's Ferry. A white abolitionist had left a boat for them at the ferry crossing owned by Thomas Howell. As over the years, the route was often used by those needing a safe route to Alton, Illinois, and the city of St. Louis. The group of freedom seekers included 57-year-old Archer Alexander, two men from Samuel McClure's Place, aged 38 and 18, and three men in their 20s from the plantation of Barton Bates. The sky was cloudy and the freezing Missouri River was running high and fast. Landing nearby, they found themselves surrounded by a slave patrol. If captured, the freedom seekers faced the reality of being returned to their enslavers and punished for absconding. All were captured, but Archer Alexander managed to escape. He continued to St. Louis, sleeping during the day and traveling at night for 2 weeks until he reached the edge of the city and sanctuary. Howell's Ferry marks an incredible story of freedom seeking that represents the failure and success of so many who sought their own freedom. And that will be the story that will be shared in that submission.
Thank you very much,
you.
Doris.
Thank you.
Robin, do we have any updates from the Historical Society?
Madam Chair, I do not have any updates, but we do have, it does look like Ms. Von Gruben has raised her hand, so I'm going to promote her.
Jill, are you ready to talk? Yes. Yeah. You are muted, Jill.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are. Thank you. Good to hear from you tonight.
Thank you. Our update is more of where the Historical Society is right now is we're just trying to reallocate our resources as far as manpower and to try and even out the distribution of the work within our organization, given that Linda will not be returning to our organization due to her health. So that is, it's a status quo type of update, but that's where we're at. As Ms. Commissioner Scott knows from our meeting, our presentation on Tuesday, that we are actively asking for and inviting people to volunteer just to help spread out the work. So that is my update for this evening. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Jill. We appreciate that.
Jan, if I may.
Yes.
Yes, I attended the meeting, the presentation last Tuesday at the Society on historic St. Louis maps. And I have to admit that one of the maps was about to vote for the incorporation or combination of St. Louis and St. Louis County. Historic map, I voted in that election. So but it was very interesting. The food, the snacks were very good. It is, and their programs are excellent. So I recommend if you have a chance, do attend those, and they've got a great organization.
Thank you very much. Okay, looks like we're ready for old business, starting with the Essen Log Cabin update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the commission, the Essen Log Cabin reassembly. As you may be aware, every year, roughly, precisely 8 members of city council come up for re-election. And that is on a cycle. So every 2 years, all 16 positions can change. I mentioned that in that the Essen Log Cabin has been around for 10 years. And there's been discussion about its reassembly over that course of 10 years. So one of the first steps the department undertook relative to the Essen Log Cabin when the Historic Preservation Commission gave it direction to implement the project at this stage was to kind of reintroduce it to city council. Thereafter, when city council again endorsed proceeding forward, we had to figure out how we were going to pay for it. And that required 2 increases in the capital improvements program. And then after that, the reallocation of certain funds from other capital improvement programs to the Essen Log Cabin. With the money in place, the bidding process went forward. And as you know, you've been kept abreast of the progress in that. And ultimately, this commission recommended that the department engage the 2 middle bidders, not the low and high bid. And ultimately, that was undertaken. The Planning and Parks Committee of City Council, which is 8 members of the overall 16-member group, heard a presentation this past Tuesday from the department relative to the recommended contractor. Ultimately, after a lengthy discussion, contractor was selected, Bombshell Construction. Bombshell Construction is the entity that's working on phase 1 of Village Green. So that particular contractor will be doing both projects, probably not simultaneously, but one will probably be close to finishing and the other starting. That is good news, because with the selection of a contractor, the department will have at the June 9th City Council meeting the report from the committee, along with a bill authorizing the contract to proceed forward with the reassembly. And so finally, after 10 years, we'll have a contractor that will be under contract to actually begin the work of the reassembly. Just as a sidebar, Ms. Keefe, Mr. Scott, and I had the unfortunate task yesterday to go visit Marycliff residence for the last time as we prepare for its demolition. And we are going to be able, I think, to save some of the building materials, the stone foundation around the exterior of the building. And then Mr. Scott had an idea about using the cedar shingles that form the covering of the exterior walls of the building for our roof on Essen Log Cabin. Many of them look in excellent shape, and if they're the right standard grade, then certainly it's an option we'll consider. So we're going to basically bring a little bit of Marycliff over to Village Green. So tonight, I just have good news for you. We're finally going to do it. And that's the good news tonight.
Thank you.
If there's any questions, please.
Okay. It's exciting. We're finally moving along.
Yes, ma'am. It's taken a while.
The night I was here to have the commission interview me before I was ever considered for the commission was the night it was discovered that the cabin was missing. And the buzz in the room that night, and we were in the community room for the meeting, it was, what, stolen? Whoa, can't steal. So I've been following things for a long time now, 10 years.
Well, we know where the logs are. So hopefully, once we get them there, they'll stay there.
Right. Thank you so much. I know it's been a lot of grueling times for you along the way. And once Robin came on board, then she was in the same boat with you. And
Yes,
we
ma'am.
really appreciate all the work that you've done on this for us.
Thank you.
Yes, Rob.
Yeah, this wasn't easy. Getting the final vote approval, it was touch and go there, but we managed, and now we're off to the races. But I wanted to say that Bombshell I'm sure they're going to do a great job, but I think it's sort of incumbent on us, maybe on Steve and others to check on the progress occasionally and make sure we're not going too far wrong, because they don't have much experience in specifically to reconstructing a cabin which doesn't go together like a regular house. They've got journeyman carpenters. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Everybody had to do their first one at some point or another, but we really need to make sure we ride herd on them. And I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about it here because we're kind of out of the loop now, but I just wanted to restate that to the department. I'm a little nervous about, what we're going to get if we're not really careful. So.
Well, Ms. Keefe reminded us yesterday when we were over at the Marinus facility that I believe Pattern and I, Ms. Quigley, will be involved in the process as well once construction starts. And she's our project architect.
Okay.
I've already twisted Mr. Scott's arm with an extra hot dogs at our venue. So I think he's on board.
I figured as much. It was worth saying again. Thank you.
No, I have volunteered for that, and I will be hanging around, and we have to work out just how communication is passed on in this whole business, but we'll be around. They'll get to know me.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Bob, you had something?
Yes, thanks. And it's really just piling on with the fact I was.
Is your mic on?
It is, but I have to talk into it too. It was a hard fight to get to Bombshell, but I believe everyone realizes it's the optimal decision. And I heard too, Mr. Rambaugh's concerns and felt them. However, and it's really a big however, Director Vunich exhibited what I think is uncharacteristic, not shyness, in his report of constructive critique on the persistent and cyclic delays and absence of crew and absence of schedule commitment. And what I read, I didn't have to hear it by anybody, but what I read was confirmed in meetings that the contractor attended, where Director Vunich was not bashful in critiquing the shortfalls and oversights that he had noticed firsthand because he lived in City Hall. So it gave me the confidence to vote the way I believe most everybody else did. And we're going to see a contractor who knows he's being ridden herd on, and he's being bird dogged, and he's being scrutinized at every turn. So he's going to have every reason to want to try and impress us favorably instead of earning more of planning and parks department's director's ire. Otherwise, Joe's a nice guy sometimes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Well, to the commission members, thank you for your patience. It's been a long journey for all of us, but I think we're on the cusp of finally seeing progress. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. Historic Preservation Plan update.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, this will be a three-part update. Tonight, I am giving you the survey results that we have received to date from our Historic Preservation Plan survey. Our MIG consultants have released the draft existing conditions report, which you will have some more time with before you need to submit your comments to me. And then finally, we have a big question to ask you at the very end. So here we go. Here's our survey. We've received 191 responses to our survey thus far. So with just 9 more responses to break 200, I do dare you all to find 3 people who have not taken this survey in the city of Wildwood tomorrow, because it closes tomorrow, and get them to take this survey so we can break 200. I think probably the number one takeaway I've taken from the survey results is that we need to do a better job communicating our activities as a commission. That seemed to be the number one response. It was surprising to me how many people were like, wow, I had no idea you were doing all of that until I took the survey. And then they saw all of the activities and comment on them. Many did advocate that HPC have its own section in the e-newsletter, or its own newsletter entirely, or its own Facebook page. Many were just interested in, kind of having just a streamlined way to access history information in Wildwood. This was an interesting question, and the responses that came back were probably the most fascinating in the survey. What potential historic resources have been lost, almost lost, or not appreciated in Wildwood? And how would you like them to be preserved? The most frequent responses were about the LaSalle Retreat Center, which of course is in the news right now, so that wasn't surprising. Many people mentioned various cemeteries in Wildwood that needed to be preserved. Route 66 was brought up quite a lot, as was African American and Indigenous history. Wildwood Parks and Trails histories were touched upon quite a few times, and also Bethel Church, both the old and the present church. Some of the more interesting responses, the Dar al-Zahra Mosque, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, an education center, is apparently the first Muslim worship place in Wildwood. It was built 17 years ago, so it kind of falls squarely in that recent landmarks category that we've talked about. And it's the most progressive mosque in Missouri. So someone commented on that. Someone mentioned that her husband was a cave professional, whatever that is. Yes, and so she mentioned Wildwood's cave history. I thought that was an interesting response to the survey. Wildwood's farming history, Funk's house, Pond Inn, maybe not so interesting, but I wanted to throw it in there. So we got some great responses, I think. The top 3 priorities for our community for historic preservation is that we engage the community. So they definitely want us to keep up our engagement activities. Number 2, provide better interpretation of historic resources through signage, markers, and monuments, which I think has certainly been a focus of this commission. Number 3, designate historic districts in Wildwood. And then I threw up number 4 because it was in close, it was almost tied for 3rd place. Provide grants to owners of historic properties, because we have been talking about that Route 66 grant program. Here's a word cloud. Do you feel historic preservation benefits the community? Why or why not? Well, you can see that there is quite a lot of yeses in the word cloud, but I thought it was a really nice representation of what history and heritage means to people. Generations, building community, character, a sense of place, pride, there's several prides, important, roots, historic preservation. So I thought we got some good responses there too. Finally, I just wanted to touch on the age demographics of people who took the survey. Obviously, and as I think all of us would suspect, it did skew older. We did get quite a few responses from the under 18 crowd. Thank you to our youth commissioners for making sure the word got out. But that gives you a sense of who's looking at our survey. And that brings me to that end. So what I'm going to do next, the survey does close tomorrow. So once I have compiled all the results in a format to give to MIG, I'll share that with the commission as well, and you can see the full results. I just gave you some highlights. Any questions regarding our survey?
Interesting.
Great. All right, next, you have a very important task ahead of you. And unfortunately, it does mean it's going to require some reading outside of sitting up here on the dais. So MIG has put together an existing conditions report. It covers, it's basically a summary of our entire historic preservation program in Wildwood. In fact, they've categorized it into 4 different areas: program administration, information and accessibility, tools, incentives, and supporting programs, and education, outreach, and partners. I actually did have a chance to read through it this afternoon. It is definitely worth our while, I think, as a group to really sit down with it and think about it and, spend some time with it. But as you're reading through that document, they've given us some prompts. Are there any details of the existing historic preservation program that you believe are missing from the draft? And I think I did catch a few things, so I think it'll be interesting to hear responses. And then in order to categorize, so as I said, they divide it into these 4 categories. These categories will be utilized not only in the existing conditions report, which is not the final format, by the way, so don't get turned off if it looks like a book report. That's not what the plan is going to look like. But anyway, it will be in the future of the program section. Based on the information in the existing conditions report, do these categories feel appropriate to you? And if not, do you have any suggestions for categories that are missing or would better organize the details of the program? So everyone is tasked with responding to those 2 questions. I'm going to have a name sheet, a roster with me, and I'm going to be checking you off as you send in your responses. So I will be monitoring to see who's doing their homework. And I need all of those responses by Monday, June 2nd, 2025, so I can package them up and send them on to MIG. And that will certainly help them as we move forward because, they're doing their best to look through the information I've given them, but we have information from being on the ground and working with these areas every day that they do not. So they absolutely need our feedback on this.
Are you sending us the email reminder?
I will send you an email reminder. I will nag you. I will encourage you to spend part of your Memorial Day weekend. It's kind of a sad time to be working on this, but we do have a couple of weeks. So I will be doing those reminders and looking for your responses. So thank you for that. And finally, the fun part. We want to start the discussion. We're going to be discussing this in depth in the July meetings when we have focus groups and an open house. But tonight we'd like to, start the wheels turning in our minds. What is your vision for the historic preservation program in the next 10 to 15 years? What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to be achieving? And so that is our question tonight to just begin the discussion, because I'm certain that over time we'll be thinking of more things. But I will turn that over to you.
And I'm looking for people to speak up.
Well, I think as in the previous slide, what I think is important is to be reaching out to people and letting them know more about what it's about and let, the people of the community have some input about what they want to see target.
Someone else? Yes, Bob.
the more of these plaques I see, Westwood and Old Orville town and the other towns, it reminds me that a lot of people, if they didn't see those plaques and hadn't lived here for 3 decades, as I have, they wouldn't have heard nearly as much about what those things are, and they would have just said, that's an interesting old building, and driven on, never knowing what it ever was. But the more communication the city can provide for what's around every corner and what's hiding behind every tree, that was a village there once. Now it's just 5 trees. They're going to realize that there's so many things they don't know the city possesses as assets, that if they're not careful, they're going to lose treasures without ever having known what they were worth. So it's communication. And I think people our age are too old to care anymore. They got more different priorities. So it's communication and to the young, that combination. That's the formula. Plaques don't cost nothing. Other communication, online communication, effective online communication that people want to go after as though it's a social media platform. That's what kids love. I hate it. I don't have any of those things. But it's communication, youth, and engagement, even to the extent of what we can do to climb onto social media, and especially using. I'm gonna just keep beating it in my own head if no one else is getting that website, that city website, cleared up, straightened out, streamlined, brought into the 21st century. I know there's valiant efforts being made on it right now by city administration and others. So that's my airtime.
Someone else? Yes, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's communicating. I mean, people are, when you talk to them, they're surprised. Oh, you did all this. Is this all here? And there really is a great interest. And somehow they're just not, we're not getting through to them. So I think to come up with, whether it's the newsletter, whether it's the Gazette, or something that people see this and direct them someplace easy to get to. Like me, if it's not easy to get to on the web, I don't go there. So easy to get to and something fresh every time they look at it and see it. And that's an effort to keep that up. But I do think that, I mean, just like our map, I think our map is fantastic. And when people see that, they love it. I don't know how many people know that map exists. So that I think is really the most important thing of getting our program going and getting it recognized throughout the community.
Anyone else? Yes, Steve.
So I was just thinking from the previous slide that the future planning, the ongoing preservation is an additional category that should be added to the historic preservation plan, because I'm assuming this is not really a one and done type of thing. It's going to be ongoing. So that in and of itself, I think, should be another category. How do we keep preserving? How do we keep planning into the future of the preservation?
Absolutely. Our youth commissioners, if I may, Chair Stevens, I apologize.
Yes.
I would just say like more youth involvement, and like I like the youth commissioner thing. I would hope like this still exists in 10 to 15 years, maybe even a third one. But I just like how there's a lot of like opportunities for youth, and hopefully in 10 to 15 years there'll be more people excited, because honestly a lot of people I know my age don't even know that this commission exists. So hopefully in 10 to 15 years they'll know more about it, and there'll be more opportunities for involvement, I guess, in the commission too.
Alan?
I just was going to say that I sense a lot of interest when we deal with a personality attached to what we're doing. I'm thinking of the Black Slave, for example, and I think there's an immediate amount of interest with the personality and developing his character and developing where he's from and who he touched and where he lived. And I think people can relate to that very well, rather than looking at a map and seeing a picture or whatever. But I think the whole idea of a personality is very helpful. I'm not that we need to have that as a statement, but I think we ought to be sensitive to that in our planning, that whenever we can do that and identify a person in our history, I think that's attractive to many people.
Absolutely. I think that's why the oral histories were such a success in the Wildwood History book.
Exactly.
Shout out to Jill.
Anyone else? Get the wheels turning.
All right. Well, we can return to this question. Maybe we'll just keep it going. Every time we bring up this item, we'll just keep thinking about it, because this is the overarching question that we're considering as we develop this citywide plan. So thank you for your input tonight, and I'll close this discussion and just request again that you do your homework for me. Thank you.
Well, wonderful information that's in the packet too. Mr. Joe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the commission, my particular presentation on this item will be very short. The group that has been working on the master plan for Pertner Park had brought it to a close. They believe they have a design that will respect the property, reflect a time past relative to how these properties used to be used and preserved, and more importantly, open it to the public so they can benefit from it as well. There is an open house planned next week on Wednesday, May 28th, here at City Hall in the community room. The open house format allows you to come anytime between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., see the master plan map, talk to the individuals that developed the concept and the ideas, and then have any of your questions answered. The ad hoc group encouraged the department, which it completed, sending individual invitations, postcards to all Ward 6 residents. Since the park property is in Ward 6, the feeling was they benefit most from knowing about it, being able to comment about it, and tell us if our direction's correct. So in summary, you have nothing to do from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Wednesday, May 28th. We'll have snacks, coffee, water, tea, and some soda, and you're more than welcome. If there's any questions about the plan itself, Ms. Keefe and I'd be glad to try to answer them at this time.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And thank you. Ms. Keefe reminded me, our Assistant Director of Planning and Parks is a young lady named Melanie Repito. And she's a whiz with our software package that does mapping, and created a storybook map for Pertner Park. We submitted it to all of our ad hoc group members, and I think they gave it rave reviews. And it'll be playing on iPads during the open house, as well as there'll be photographs from the report itself. There is information on the website now about the park, and et cetera. So, like I say, if there's any questions, Robin just wants to kind of go through and show you what Ms. Ripito has put together. The photograph on the far left is the bank building. We were hoping we could save that and turn that into a pavilion, restroom facility, and storage. It's a great building. We had a structural engineer look at it, and he said he wouldn't necessarily recommend we go into it at any time in the near future or distant future. So the bank building will be before this Historic Preservation Commission, and the department will be asking for permission to remove it. We'll salvage the materials, I promise. Some information on the planning process, the major dates along the way. We had fun on January 4th when we went out to the site and did a visit. It was a Saturday. It was before the big snowstorm that snarled the city of St. Louis and others, but it was a beautiful day to be out at the park. And just some general information about where is the park. Existing conditions. Special conditions, things along those lines. The consultant that's assisting the ad hoc group created a series of maps to help us understand the characteristics of the property, such as slope, woodland cover, and was able to guide a lot of our decisions based upon what Wildwood is about, protecting the environment and the property associated with it. We talked about access. Obviously, Haken Road is a rural road. There are those things we called site distance considerations. And so we ended up doing basically a two-part entry exit. And we were able to meet the minimum site distance for people exiting the park. So it is safe. We had help putting the family history together. We think this is an important part and goes to Vice Chair Bockert's statement about personalities, making it a little bit more human, making it a little bit more about who was there and how it kind of transitioned over the years through the families. I think does help. And then I think Dr. Rambo provided some photographs for us. And then there's the master plan and draft form. We continue to call it a draft form until there is a final request of the ad hoc group to approve it. We did not approve it at their last meeting because there may be comments that come from the attendees at the open house. Those comments will be reviewed, weighed, and potentially plan change. And then finally, there's the timeline we'll be following, and we hope to be done in July with the final meeting of the ad hoc group. And we'll take it through the process of Planning and Parks Committee of City Council to City Council. And then in 2026, we'll begin rolling up our sleeves and trying to get the design, engineering, and bidding done so we can go to construction. So again, thanks for reminding. And if there are any questions about any of the items that scrolled through the screen in front of you?
I had a question. I was actually out there a couple months ago just to look and walk around, expecting to see the residence that was there, but it had been removed. And I was just kind of curious. I don't know if it had any historic value, but I was wondering why they took the house away.
Well, Miss Yost had built the house around 2001, 2002. So it was approximately 20 years old. And when Miss Yost donated the property to the city, there was a family member, a distant family member that contested the donation because obviously they would like to have the 27 acres and home. It took a while from a legal standpoint to work through the discussion of the donation, the content of the donation, the trust that basically transferred it, and then ultimately us as the city accepting it. During that period of time, which was over a year, there was a leak in the house, a water leak from the pump through the pressurizer that's in the basement. And so finally, when we did get access to the home, there was every type of mold you could imagine in the basement, on all of the walls, the floors, the baseboards, the kitchen cabinets, the kitchen counter, everywhere. We just didn't make the assumption it was a lost cause. We had two different firms do a mold assessment, and both said that it's probably one of the worst they've seen. And so from that perspective, a decision had to be made about, should we try to restore it, so to speak, or should we remove it? And based upon what we were being told, it was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we removed it to eliminate the public health threat and also it becoming a nuisance.
Sounds like the right call.
Well, sure Miss Yost will probably, I get to meet her somewhere up there eventually. I'll have a question or two for me about it. I'll see what I can do. Thank
Anything
you.
else?
Thank you, Joe. Robin, Historic Route 66 revitalization. Just a moment, please.
All right, Madam Chair, members of this commission, as you are aware, Route 66 revitalization has long time been a priority of the city and of this commission. In particular, a couple years ago, efforts ramped up in response to a potential grant, which unfortunately we didn't receive from Missouri Main Street, but we did get the whole community together in celebration of the Mother Road, which I think was a success. And it was a wonderful start and kickoff to our Route 66 roadside park project. And that was a very successful engagement involving youth with the Route 66 task force. The Route 66 task force, and I'm kind of giving the summary and benefit of some of our newer members, so bear with me. Our Route 66 task force consisted of 4 middle schoolers and 4 high schoolers from 5 area schools that helped us not only plan and design the park project, but also spearhead a student design competition for the feature photo op piece of it, planned 2 events for Route 66 month, and we even created a selfie tour video. So it was a very successful effort, and it's certainly given us a lot of energy around Route 66 ever since. However, in present day focus is next year, because next year is Route 66 100th anniversary, and there's going to be a lot of activity taking place not only in our community, but in communities all across Missouri and really all across the route. So we have some opportunities ahead of us to spur tourism, spur interest in the road, and potentially get some preservation projects done as well. So to date, the following activities are taking place in support of the 100th anniversary. The city is working on developing a Route 66 grant program for businesses in Wildwood that are along our historic corridor. We're still working on the fine details of that, but it is in the works. The city is piloting a wayfinding signage program, starting with our Route 66, and we've come to you with those presentations. It's going to look really, really neat, I think. Along with the wayfinding signage, banners along Old Manchester Road or Route 66. We're going to have a Route 66 element in our city historic preservation plan. So that will be a key component of it. Wildwood Historical Society calendar will have a Route 66 theme next year. So we're all coordinating activities. We're working on a Route 66 historic marker, which we'll talk about in a minute. And we're planning at least 5 Route 66 events, including a drive-in movie, which I'll talk about in a minute, Bunyan Derby Run, concert, possibly a Joe Sonderman presentation, maybe a trivia game, Route 66 cruise, and scavenger hunt. So we have a lot that needs planned, but a lot in the works, and I think we will have a very successful year next year. Additionally, we're talking about interpretive signage, brochures, souvenirs, stencils along the stretch of the road, and joint activities with other communities. So those things are being discussed. We'll see what we can make happen. So very exciting to us, and we touched upon this at our last meeting, is recently Leader Publications approached the city with an idea that we do a 100th anniversary issue for Route 66, focusing on Wildwood, Eureka, and Pacific as an area. So that was with Mark Grabe and Peggy Scott are leading that effort. And the department has since met with both of them as well as with representatives from Eureka and Pacific. We've had a second meeting where we ironed out some additional details for you, which I will share this evening. But essentially the idea of this magazine is for each of the cities to have a few dedicated pages within the publication, to have a wealth of Route 66 content and history, and then also having advertising space for all of our local businesses as well. So it's really intended to spur interest in our corridor and in our areas around the Route 66. They are asking from the city a few things. They're asking for a commitment in the form of a resolution from City Council. They're asking us to reach out to the business community and endorse this project and get people excited about it. They're asking us to generate a leads list for them of businesses, organizations, and individuals who might be interested. They are asking us to sponsor at least one page of advertising in the magazine, which comes with a price tag of at least $1,380. We are being asked to provide interesting content to journalists, to their journalists pertaining to Route 66 history and submit material. We'll be involved in some of the proofing so that we can make sure our content for our city is correct. And then we are also assisting in the distribution of the anniversary issue if we decide to do the project. Some other key components. Last time we talked about distribution. The leader is planning to print 3,000 copies. They formalized their proposal. It's 3,000 copies for distribution across Missouri, Route 66, and up Interstate 55. So they are thinking about a pretty wide distribution network for our magazine. It will be available in a digital format, which will either be housed on their website and we can link to it, or we can also host it on our website. So it's up to the city how we want to do that. There is interest in engaging the schools, though they kind of volunteered me to be that liaison with the schools. But essentially, we're thinking there might be another student competition, perhaps similar to the Old Pond School Drawing Contest, which Commissioner Bohr will be talking to you about in a few items. We're just thinking that if students contribute their content and if winning content is in the magazine, it's probably going to engage a lot of families in the area around this as well. The intent is to have a very nice magazine that people want to keep. Like, this isn't something that, you know, they look through it and throw it in the recycling bin. The idea is that people will want to hold on to it. And I will say that as part of this meeting, we've already discussed potentially joining up with Eureka and Pacific about doing a drive-in movie production of Cars 1, Cars 2, and Cars 3, with each of the cities hosting one of the movies. And the bonus of that, possibly, it still needs to get finalized, so please see this as a tentative. But Eureka does have their own screen and audio equipment, so they could potentially pitch in if we're doing a joint event, and we can advertise to the region then to all 3 cities versus just our area. So we're already starting to talk about some collaboration for next year, which I think is a great side bonus of this initiative. So tonight, after you have an opportunity to discuss it, we are asking you one more time with more information in front of you, if this commission would like to endorse this project to City Council. And if we do receive your endorsement tonight, which again comes with a price tag, $1,380, then we'll take it to City Council and see if we can get a resolution. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments on this? We need to discuss this. Steve, you look like you're ready to say something.
Yes, I have, what's the status of Pacific and Eureka as to committing to this? I mean, I wouldn't want to go in alone and I wouldn't want to be the only one out. But I think it's got to be a joint thing of the three of us, the cities together in the unit.
That's a good question. At the meeting, both of the representatives from Eureka and Pacific indicated that while they haven't got into the city council action, you know, because there's a formal process there too, but they indicated that they are on board, each of the cities.
Well, it's always easy since we don't approve the money and we don't spend it. It goes to the council. It's easy to ask for it, but you know, if they're in it, I think we should be too. And hopefully the council has the money and will approve it.
Bob?
What do you need from us?
I need your endorsement this evening. At the last meeting, you somewhat endorsed the project. You said, go forward, collect more information. I'm bringing more information back to you tonight. So at this time, I'm requesting a formal endorsement that we can take to city council that says, yes, we want to move forward with this project, understanding that we do have a financial stake in it. And with some of these firmer details in the form of a proposal that I have in your packet.
So money's tight and going to get tighter soon, but $1,380 is relatively trivial, and you believe in this, I believe in you. So I am ready to make a motion that we send Robin forth with next steps. I'm skeptical about this. I'm still a little bit skeptical, but I think it's worth rolling the bones. That's my thought. So how do I phrase that as a motion that we can, do I just say, I move that we ask Robin to move forward with this program?
I think that would cover it all.
Okay, that's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion.
Dr. Rambo,
Yes.
I would prefer if you said if the department would move forward to city council.
Okay.
Take it as- Chair, do you need a second?
Bob?
Yes, I'll be glad to second. I don't know whether two council liaison representatives are supposed to be taking such action activity as opposed to just liaisoning on activity, but I'll get into the mold. But I'll be glad to make a second, and I would further like to either clarify or amend the motion of Mr. Council Member Liaison, Dr. Rambo.
Okay. We have a motion with a second. Is there any further discussion?
The discussion would be
Steve?
that,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, just to clarify, I think the city of Wildwood, and I heard comments only enough to triage into a couple of different veins. This is a laudable enough effort that Wildwood shall either participate in or shall solely lead its city's participation at full speed ahead. So if we can find out before the next city council meeting by informal means, whether and how much commitment and signing in blood Eureka and the other city, who are they?
Pacific.
Pacific, thank you. I keep trying to throw
That other town out west.
that other one, yeah. There'd be plan A and then plan B. There'd be the Wildwood only plan where we dive in and do it our way. There'd be the B plan where either or both of the other two cities show and convince you of sufficient endeavor that you would bring back to us that news, either by email. I don't know that we need to stand around and wait for months and months and months. But if I'm clear enough, there'd be an A and a B, because this is worth Wildwood tackling, even if it's the Wildwood only version of how we tackle it, and not the 3 cities in a row along 20 miles manner of tackling it. Is that perfectly clear?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will be sure to reach out to my contacts from those cities, but I will say at the meeting, they sounded pretty confident.
And we could have something that we can have an email to voice it. I don't know how this voice a quorum and vote on something that can be presented to the council next for June, on June 9th. It's only a short while from now. Otherwise, we lose it and we're coming back in July.
Well, they just need a commitment from the city by July. So that's actually fine. They just need something from us by July.
Okay.
But absolutely, as soon as I have word of formal action on their part, I will make sure that information gets passed forward.
The goal would be to have something to present to us that we can take 2.5 minutes to decide on to the affirmative. And that would be a sharp no-brainer for the next meeting.
Anyone else? Well, I think we need to just remember that it was the original part of Route 66 that came through here because they couldn't get across the river down there without a bridge. And so they stayed up here on the ridge. And so I think that's something we need to emphasize in our work with any one of the projects for the celebration is we were the original section of 66.
We were the mother of the mother road.
Mother of the Mother Road, that's right. Maybe we're the grandmother, I don't know.
Stevens, if I may, that actually brings up another point is this magazine's a great opportunity to market ourselves in conjunction with Eureka and Pacific, which are on, the actual Route 66 where the original alignment.
This was actual 66.
Something we had across. My point is we're then connected, which I think is likely to generate more tourism to our area because at the same time they're exploring Pacific and the Red Cedar Inn, Big Chief Roadhouse, and making that trip to us as well. So I think it can only benefit us to advertise our region in concert.
I have a question. Are we only going for the one page? Or is this an option of, plan A, B, C type thing? When we go to city council, are we just going to say we want one page? Or are we going to go for more?
Well, that is certainly up to this commission to discuss. The department would like to move forward with this project. So we would say minimum or above is what we're requesting or recommending.
Madam Chair, I would say a minimum of one page and let the city council decide. As Mr. Scott said, they're the ones that have to make the decision where to spend money and not.
Right. Because I know money is tight and it's tough to get the right votes, but maybe to be able to leave it open that possibly there could be more.
I have a question.
Yes, Rob.
Can we run this past the Economic Development Committee as well? Because I mean, the money's, again, it's relatively trivial in the great scheme of things. And if it costs us $3,000 to do 3 pages, I think it's probably worth considering. So the more support we can get, better. So does that make any sense to do that, or should we just try to do it ourselves?
Certainly, the Department of Planning and Parks is in the position to proceed forward with at least one page, if not 3, as has been recommended. But I think Paula Bazan, our Economic Development Manager and the Economic Development Committee of City Council, could certainly assist in this and actually do a great job of promoting it as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to do it ahead of time. By the time council discusses it, all 16 members have heard about it because of the committees they participate in, and it might make it a sort of a slam dunk. So anyway, that's it.
Yes, Steve.
Yes. Okay. Who is responsible for the editorial content of this and the graphics of this? Would that be an additional cost to the city to have a graphic designer? And I guess you can write it, but there's going to be more cost to it than that. That would have to also be approved.
That will be on Leader Publications.
They'll do the graphic design.
We're providing the content.
Let's see. Do we approve that? The graphic design, how it looks?
Yeah, yes, that's part of our asks is to do the proofing.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Or Eureka and Pacific also have their pages in this too, or is it all for one and one for all?
I get the feeling that Eureka and Pacific are each going to do one page.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion before we take our vote? Okay, the motion has been seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? It has passed.
Thank you. All right, second, under the same heading, as mentioned, we do have a historic marker that is presently in development. City Council has approved our official verbiage for it.
Good.
So I think everybody has probably seen this by now. But at our last meeting, we studied 5 potential locations for our historic marker and narrowed it down to just 2. The Big Chief Roadhouse and the Route 66 Roadside Park. The department was tasked with going back, taking more photos, conducting a little bit more traffic analysis, and then coming back to this commission with some additional recommendations and information. Which was done. So the department did visit the Big Chief Roadhouse site again, and we did reach out to the owner of Big Chief Roadhouse. We have not yet received a response or set a meeting, but we've started that conversation to see if the restaurant would be potentially interested in hosting it. But there are a couple areas in the public right-of-way in the general vicinity of the restaurant as well. And I have photos of that in front of you. There's the property just west of Big Chief Roadhouse. As you can see, it has some nice decoration to it. There's a sidewalk. It's adjacent to the Big Chief Roadhouse parking lot. So potentially we could find a location in that area. Another potential location could be at the Wildwood Middle School. There is a crosswalk that connects directly from the restaurant to the middle school. So there is, at least a safer route to the marker from the Big Chief Roadhouse parking lot. However, I would say one detractor of this is there were a lot of trees in this location, and with the angle, I'm not sure that the marker would stand out to a drive-by tourist. So I think that was my primary concern. Pickup and drop off. The restaurant is closed in the mornings when the drop off would occur. When the pickup is happening of students, the restaurant's not at its peak hours. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily the deal breaker. I think it just comes down to where is the marker going to be the most visible? Where is it going to be fun for people to take photos next to the marker and then have Big Chief as a backdrop, that kind of thing. Overall, we felt this was a very, very solid location to explore. The Route 66 roadside park site, when we did a little bit of more analysis, just continues to look really tough to do prior to having infrastructure at the site. There are a couple off-street parking spaces, like on the street. Unfortunately, each of those locations, actually, I'm going to just move over to the aerial. So there's actually 2 areas of parking along the street. One, as you go past let's say you're going west on Old Manchester Road, there's 2 spaces here. There's a crosswalk there's a crosswalk west of the site here. It's over 200 feet. If you were to park your car and then take the crosswalk and then go here, you're going a pretty decent distance on foot and you're crossing the street. Given that we're talking about a marker where people just want to get out and get back in their car and go, and they're not staying for a length of time at the location. Like, I would be a little less concerned if there was actually a park here, because people would want to park if they were going to stay there for a while. But if they're just going to read a marker and then get back in the car, they're probably going to take the shortcut. And again, my concern is that they're going to use Grover Crossing Drive, just put on their panic lights or, move over to the side and then get out and get in and go. I made an error in my analysis in the memorandum I gave you. There actually is some parking just east of the site as well. But again, it's about 200 feet, if not more, depending on where the marker's located and the site. I think it's probably more likely that someone might pull over here and then walk back. But again, I still think that the primary decision of every driver, given no other information, is going to be using Grover Crossing. Additionally, we talked about the lack of association around the site, just the modern homes behind it. And then further with the street lamps, with the electric poles and some of the, the infrastructure at the front of the site, it just adds some visual clutter where a historic marker by itself with nothing else around it could potentially be missed. So those were my concerns regarding the Route 66 roadside park site. However, the good news is, and we mentioned this last meeting, these markers are pretty easy to move if we need to. So it doesn't mean we can't move the marker back to the site once there's a park there. It just means maybe right now might not be the best time for it. So obviously I'm leading to the department's recommendation, which is Big Chief Roadhouse for the time being, at least. But at this time, I'll turn it back over to the commission so you can select a final location and endorse such so the department can move forward and continuing to have those conversations with the appropriate parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? Yes, Bob.
Well, thank you. Can you go back 2 photographs and catch the street with its poles? Yeah, that's the best basis to form a motion on which of the 2 to choose. But I don't want to make a motion because I want to carpet the floor with my motions.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear him.
He is deferring to commission members because he doesn't want to be the one to make
Okay,
the
thank
motion.
Rob?
Well, heck, I will.
No.
Joe might have to correct my language again. I'm not sure what I did wrong last time, but evidently something. I think Big Chief is clearly the right choice from a photogenics perspective, and it just this place would be kind of dismal. Okay, here's a marker in a field, and people have to block other residential traffic to walk out and see it, and then we look like chumps because there's nothing around it, and there's nothing to tie it really to Route 66. So my motion would be talk to the Big Chief owners and get their, I'm assuming, probably enthusiastic support for that location. And if they don't want to host it on their site for some reason, talk to the folks next door. That's it. And you can condense that down to probably 6 words, but.
So I would second that motion, just with the caveat of if the roadside park does come to fruition and turns out to be an amazing location, and it all plans out like we hope, that there's the potential to possibly move the marker.
Of course. Yeah, that went without saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
I agree with Rob too. I mean, like said the last time, that's the most significant structure we have is the Big Chief Route 66. I think belongs there. And if there's people at the restaurant, it's like, oh, let's go out and see what this says about Route 66. I'm like, so they're already there. So I will go for Big Chief.
Okay. Yes, Dave.
Yeah, I had originally promoted having it at the park site, but since that's a gateway to our Route 66. But no, I do think it'd be more accessible at the Big Chief. I think I would say put it in the front yard of that building to the west of it. Is that, do they own that too?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Do they own that? Or is that service company that owns that?
I think they rent it out to somebody. I know. Long time ago, I got to have some duct work that was made there. It was, but if we could be like in their front yard, so you would see it coming into the Big Chief, and you could park right there and walk over and see what it is and learn something. But you get too close to the Big Chief, and then it's sort of lost. But
Mhm.
the Big Chief would be in the background.
Well, if you put it between, I don't know exactly where you want to put it, in the space between the sidewalk and the road, that's public right away. I mean, you don't really have to get anybody's permission.
Correct.
I guess, who maintains that road? Is that St. Louis County or Wildwood that maintains Manchester?
Wildwood.
Well, we got an in there.
Rob?
One caveat, that place next door has the very first robot mower that I ever saw.
Yeah,
And
me too.
if people are walking over to look at a historic marker, we don't want them to get run over by a robot mower. We need to just consider that.
When I run out that way, that thing is always going.
Is there any other discussion? Yes, Steve.
So I was also in favor of the park last time, and for me, I think it's just more centrally located within Wildwood. I do think it's a higher pedestrian area, but I guess my question is, if there's concerns about how people will get there on foot, aren't those same concerns for the park once it's built? I mean, it only looked like there was going to be 2 or 3 parking spaces in the park itself, if those are still in the plan, but
Yeah,
there were.
I didn't see, okay, maybe I'm wrong. How many were there planned?
5 or 6, as I remember.
Not a lot, but still, yeah. Well, true. And I think that's true no matter where it's gonna be. We're gonna have flocks of people going there, but I just kind of heard some concerns about how people would get there, and it seems those same concerns would be with the park once it's completed.
I think it would be alleviated somewhat just by if there was a completed park there, people would be spending more time there. So they might be more inclined to park the car and make the walk to spend more time at the park. I think with the historic marker alone, they would probably just be choosing the easiest way to get out, get in and see it. I mean, just based on what I know of my own psychology, going past a space and for the same purpose. So that was my only consideration, but yes, the park will have parking spaces within it, and that would alleviate a lot of these concerns. So I wouldn't rule out the park's site at all for the future. It's just right now without any infrastructure there. I do think there are some detractors.
Yeah, and like you said, it's easy enough to move, so
Right.
if you did choose to.
Yeah, I can say on my part, I've always wanted to stop and read the one at Church Road. But I never have, because like, I don't know where to park there. Try to park on Church Road.
That's where I park.
That's where I park.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, we're ready for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? It has passed.
Thank you.
Oh, the threshold.
Oh, I should say that there are some next steps if you would like to hear them.
Yes.
Next up for the marker, I am going to request drawings and a cost estimate from the 2 companies that we generally go to for these sort of projects. Once we have those items, we can engage the community at the next few events regarding them. We'll have an opportunity at the June History Tent and the upcoming open house events. Then those plans will be forwarded to City Council. We're looking to order the marker hopefully by September in order to have it ready for next year in January. Thank you. All right. Discussion regarding the age threshold used to determine qualification as historic. I am going to revisit some information from our last discussion, given that we have some new members with us this evening. As you're aware, since its initial adoption in 1999, the Chapter 440 Historic Preservation and Restoration Ordinance has identified 75 years as the eligibility threshold for defining a building, structure, or element within the city boundaries as historic. This threshold determines whether a building, element, or structure is eligible for listing on the Wildwood Historic Register. It also determines whether it will be included in our Wildwood Historic Building Inventory, which means we survey it and have a summary of its condition and some of the site history. And finally, whether the building, structure, or element is subject to additional review by this commission when there is an alteration to it, new construction on the property, demolition of it, or removal of other historic accessory structures on the property. So 75 years is very important to our program currently. We talked last time about it comparing to other programs and that other programs have different requirements. Again, the Wildwood Historic Register does follow our 75-year requirement. The St. Louis County Landmarks program does not have an age requirement at all. They just assign significance based on other criteria. The National Register of Historic Places, which we do have some overlap with given our federal, state, local partnership that we're in as a CLG, it does have a 50-year eligibility requirement, which does and allows for more recent buildings to be added if they are especially significant to the nation's history. We talked about the case for reconsideration last time, that Wildwood, given it was incorporated just 30 years ago, has more recent landmarks that are worthy of consideration in terms of their significance. We have the Wildwood Hotel, we have the Wildwood City Hall, just some of these more recent buildings. The town center as a whole could potentially, be considered historic just in terms of its significance to the city's development. We know that in 45 years' time, if given that same threshold, it would be considered worthy of nomination to a historic register if it was still here. We also talked about some of our historic landmarks in Wildwood not meeting this eligibility threshold for other reasons, such as the original building being destroyed by fire. United Baptist Church was mentioned as an example of that. However, that church still maintains that same history and significance today. We gave you a few options to consider of how we might go ahead and alter our criteria. I'm not going to go over those options in detail right this second because I want to go into some new areas with you. Last time, we had a discussion regarding the word historic and what it actually means. So I went ahead and back and did some research for us because I figured it made sense for us to have the same language when talking about historic, significance, historical, etc. So according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, historic means famous or important in history, having great or lasting importance, known or established in the past, and dating from or preserved from a past time or culture. It also gave us a distinction between historical and historic. Historic and historical have been used interchangeably over the years, but they have separate roles in most cases. Historical is the general term for describing history, such as the historical record, while historic is usually reserved for important and famous moments in history, such as a historic battle. So the word historic in itself actually means important and significant. According to AI Overview, historically significant or historical significance refers to the importance of a past event, person, or object and its lasting impact on subsequent history and society. It highlights why something is worth remembering and learning from, connecting past events to present day understanding. So I just figured it was worth contemplating those definitions as we have this discussion, because again, historic doesn't necessarily just mean old. It actually just means it has a place in history. You know, there's a reason that it's important and worth noting. We also talked about developing criteria to determine a building structure or elements historical significance. And the good news is we don't really have to do that because we already have criteria that we use as a commission. And we actually have 13 criteria that does come from the Department of the Interior. And so it does correspond with the national standards as well. Usually, as part of the Wildwood Historic Register program, a building, element, or structure only needs to meet one of these criteria in order to be considered worthy of nomination. So we do have a set of criteria that's pretty well recognized, well used in terms of determining a more subjective value of a structure or landmark. We also talked about what it would mean to potentially add more or have a 50-year age criterion. What does that mean in terms of how many buildings would we need to survey? What does it mean in terms of cost? So I collected that information as well. Presently, we have 379 buildings on our register meeting that 75-year threshold. The number of properties from 50 to 74 years old is 458. So even more than what we currently have would need to be surveyed. Additionally, we noted last time that the Evergreen and West Glens farm subdivisions are approaching the age marker that would bring approximately 900 properties into consideration. So that needs to be considered as well as we think about potentially changing that age threshold. The estimated cost for a survey of 458 properties is $58,000 to $62,000. And that was taking Michael Allen's fee from our last update and adding some change to it for rising costs. So last time we did present those 4 options to you. We talked about maintaining the 75-year threshold for the city in terms of survey and review, but removing the eligibility criterion for nominations to the Wildwood Historic Register. That would allow more recent landmarks to be considered historically important in Wildwood, but would not add to the burden of tasks that we normally do in terms of surveying properties and reviewing them. Option B, we could maintain our 75-year threshold for survey work and review requirements, but add exceptions for properties meeting special criteria, such as having known significance and interest to the community. So that gives us a little bit more discretion to consider properties outside of our 75-year threshold. It would remove the age eligibility criterion for being submitted to or nominated to the Wildwood Historic Register. Option C, we could survey all properties reaching a 50-year threshold. And the reason we talked about that was to be in line with the federal requirements, because we did talk about having potential problems occasionally in terms of grants and funding and Section 106 requirements. So we could potentially survey all properties reaching that 50-year threshold consistent with federal level criteria, but only review properties. And when I say review, I mean those site visits where we go look at alterations, demolitions, etc., but only review properties that meet additional defined criteria. Properties meeting the 50-year-old age criterion could be nominated to the Wildwood Historic Register. And then finally, option D is like option C, except we remove the age eligibility criterion for being nominated to the Wildwood Historic Register. Again, to open the door for some of our more recent landmarks, because that would allow us to really be able to recognize our town center as something actually worthy of looking at as historic as well. So the department, after conducting this analysis and considering the burdens and all of those things, we landed on option D, which was that we could potentially look at a 50-year threshold consistent with federal level criteria, but only review or conduct site visits for alterations, demolitions, etc., properties that meet additional defined criteria, which we believe is laid out quite nicely in those 13 criteria that we discussed earlier. It could remove the age eligibility criterion for being nominated to the register. As a sub-recommendation, the department would like to look at developing a new survey approach for some of our newer large subdivision projects. One that documents the history of the subdivision and a few example houses, but does not consider each individual house unless there is a known additional significance, like someone important lived there. And the reason we're thinking of this is, considering the 900 properties of just those two subdivisions, it would be much less of a burden on this commission, especially considering the architectural similarities across a subdivision, if we simply looked at the subdivision as a whole and surveyed it as one entity, and then just, again, some example homes for the architectural purposes. And that would potentially make it less difficult to do. We do recommend that we continue to utilize the significance criteria that we presently apply to nominations to the Historic Register, given it is consistent with the criteria at the federal level. So there's really probably a stronger legal basis for it as well. And then finally, we did support the suggestion that was proposed last time that the commission might form a subcommittee with a lesser quorum requirement for reviewing historic properties. And we further recommended that subcommittee have at least one architect upon it. And it would require amendment of the commission's bylaws in order to achieve that. But that's where we landed after considering all of these factors. But at this time, I'd love to turn it back over to you for some discussion. And then I would respectfully request direction from this commission. Our next step would be to take whatever that direction may be to the city attorney and to MIG, our historic preservation plan consultants, and have them review this, review the discussion to date and give us feedback on it as well. So any motion that you made this evening would not be final by any means. It would simply be giving us a direction to take to the city attorney and to MIG and for us to consider further. Thank you.
Any comments or questions on this?
I just have a different vibe for what the history of Wildwood is. I mean, when we have historic spaces that go back to the 1800s, to think about a subdivision of, 600 or 900 homes that you're going to call historic just seems kind of weird to me. I mean, what's historic about that? I mean, I know, okay, it's been there a while. But when I'm thinking about historic spots of Wildwood, I'm thinking about subdivisions or hotels or whatever. Yeah, they've been there a number of years, but when we have things that are from the 1800s here, that's what I'm seeing as historic. So I understand what you're coming to for your options, but that's just my personal opinion about what historic Wildwood is,
And Chair Stevens, if I may comment on that. I wouldn't call every building that is included in our Wildwood, we call it historic building survey or inventory, but I believe that most of the time when we go out and conduct a site visit, one of the factors we're considering is there actually any significance to this building other than its age? Is there something architecturally relevant? Was there a famous person who lived here or a founder of, the area? So I think the purpose of the survey work, frankly, is to document, in some instances, it's to document the development of the city as a whole. Like it's not everything is necessarily meant to be applied as, okay, well, we need to. It just means that looking back, we can use this survey information to make, to conduct analysis about how this area grew over time. And it will help someone in the future in kind of having that historical perspective. Thank you.
Steve?
Okay, well, I think to have, say, at least a 75-year age to consider putting a building on, just the fact that it has survived that many years. And I even think it could be higher than 75. That gives it some significance. Other than that, I think you could, a newer building that had something historically happen there should be considered. So I wouldn't change the age of a building or reduce the age to consider putting it on the list, but if we have that inventory, we should use it. But you have to be careful in declaring something historic, because I think it takes a few years to come to the realization, to finalize an opinion of something. I mean, I'm just thinking that I may be one of the few people here who remember when Harry Truman was president, but the attitude, the historical opinion of him has changed over the years. So I think we have to be careful about making historical decisions on recent events. But I don't think it's improper to do that. We just have to be very careful when we do that. So I keep it at 75 and make it other considerations for declaring it an historic site.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? Rob?
Yeah, I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry, folks.
We always like to listen to your comments.
I one of the few times I sort of disagree with Steve. I mean, 50 years is a pretty darn long time for, I was prepared to make a motion to just adopt the department's recommendations, but I guess we can tweak the 50 to 75 if that's appropriate, as long as we have other decision criteria. And I just don't want anything to fall through the cracks because we've decided, oh, it doesn't quite meet the 75-year threshold, but it has some significance. And even if people like Harry better than they used to, or vice versa, he's still a historical figure, right? So if something historic happened there, it's probably makes the building worth consideration. So how can we resolve the 50 versus 75, I guess? Okay. Okay.
If I may
Yes,
respond to
please.
this question. I think the value in going to that 50-year, one, we're then more lined up with the federal
Yes.
Programs, which I think will help us in terms of grant funding and conversations in terms of survey work with them in the future. Because I've run into that in my more behind the scenes work when I'm working towards grants and survey proposals, that discrepancy between our standard and theirs has sometimes thrown some hoops. Secondly, the value in surveying properties up to 50 years is then we know what's out there, because otherwise we can apply additional significance criteria, but we don't really know anything about the property that we're applying that criteria to. Now, some properties, might be a little bit more well-known to us, But the value of that survey is that's what gives us the information to go on. Like when we go visit a historic property, that survey tells me almost immediately, was there anything significant that happened here? What is the condition of this residence? How much integrity does it have? You know, if it doesn't have a whole lot of integrity, then why are we trying to stop a demolition? You know, so it's the survey that gives us the information, I think, to make informed choices. And that would be my only caution about keeping the 75 years is then we don't really have that extra information to potentially assess other properties.
Somebody asked Steve if he agrees with, or still disagrees with that.
Well, I just think the job of surveying 50-year-old houses, I mean, everything that's 50 years old, I mean, what that is going to add in the cost, that if something happened significantly in a 25-year-old building, then it could be declared historic. But I just think if you're only going to honor a structure because of its age, then I think it probably should be at least 75 years old. If nothing else, nothing happened at my house historically significant, but it managed to survive all these years. So I think that's what got me in. But so I think I would keep that at that age and don't survey any houses that are less than that, unless there's somebody comes up and say, "Oh, this is what happened here," and we look at it and see whether it's worthwhile to do that. But,
So the cost is your concern then?
well, that's be a big cost to increase that survey to 50 years old, and it's only going to get worse.
Sure. Yeah, because there's more and more homes that were built.
Yeah.
Robin, what do you think of that cost argument?
I mean, it's certainly worth this commission considering that. I mean, there is a cost to it. We laid out the number to you. And that's just to get us up to date, to that 50-year mark.
So would I'm sorry, I'm trying to move this along a little bit. Would there be sufficient additional criteria in your recommendation to cover significant buildings that don't meet the 75-year threshold, and then we just live with the consequences of not being in sync with the federal government? Is that a workable solution in your mind?
I think anything that we've proposed is workable.
Okay.
The department is recommending the 50 again, because I think it is going to help us long-term with having those conversations with the federal government. We are in a local, state, federal partnership, and their program requirements, like when we're looking at large grants, oftentimes we don't meet those requirements because we aren't reaching their standard. So that is part of the impetus of this entire conversation. That said, this might be worth additional conversation. Again, the idea for tonight is just to give us a direction to have more conversations with our city attorney, with MIG. I don't think we need to make this right now. There's a lot of changes going on at the federal level. Things could look very different a few months from now or a year from now. We don't know. So we're not necessarily rushing to an action here. We're not going to take your endorsement and go to city council and try to make something happen.
Okay.
The idea tonight is simply to give us some direction of where you're all landing on this issue. And then we will investigate it further and come back to you with some additional solutions. So that's my recommendation.
So it's about second.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
To present this to the city attorney.
Exactly right.
Consideration.
Exactly right. That's what we'll do. That's that makes sense to me, or that's what I'd like to see us do. I'm sorry, Joe, I cut you off, but
No, I was interrupting the conversation. There's a lot of moving parts tonight. I would respectfully request a postponement so that we can step back take into account Mr. Scott and everyone else's comments and bring something back to you that is fresh, so to speak, for further discussion. And we will loop in the city attorney and MIG so that we have their input to help as well. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Avi.
Sorry, really sorry about this, but we have our last day of finals tomorrow, so I would have to leave a little bit early the next day. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Best of luck.
You're excused.
Good. Good luck. Cool.
Oh, we lose it.
So I will make that motion because Alan and I collaborated on the last one, but looking at it, there's 379 properties that are 75 years or older, and then there's 458 that are 50 to 74 to Steve's point. So it is worth consideration. So I move that we postpone this until you can talk to the attorney and others.
I'll second that. But
It is motion to postpone and have further discussion. It's been seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? You can keep working. Thank you. Okay, the next item is June future tent planning.
Madam Chair, members of this commission, this is just a reminder that we do have a history tent engagement coming up in June. I am asking for volunteers. The specific date in question is Friday, June 20th. And I would be asking you to volunteer from about 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Generally, we start packing up around the intermission of the concert. Concert starts at 6:45, but we generally engage quite a bit with people leading up to the start of the music because people like to, get their spots. This will be an important engagement for promoting our historic preservation plan effort and the upcoming open house and focus group events. MIG is putting together a plan as we speak. We should have some more information in the next few weeks about what those events are going to look like. So by the time we get to the June 20th engagement, we'll have some materials with all of that finalized. It'll also be an opportunity to sell our history books, our Route 66 t-shirts, provide outreach activities on the Essen Log Cabin, and distribute our points of interest maps. However, it will be more of a modified tent as we did similar to last year versus our full-fledged Celebrate Wildwood tent. So I would like, at least 2, if not 3 volunteers for that. If you are interested, please let me know. Send me an email. Let me know tonight. I would appreciate the help. Thanks. Thank you, Debbie.
I can too.
Thank you.
June 20th, you said?
Yes.
I have to check, but it's time for me to volunteer.
Well, thank you.
I'm not the most social guy, honestly, but I'll give it a whirl.
Question for Planner Keith. And was quite coincidental or not. Quite coincidental or not that the young lady has volunteered. I was thinking, are there things that volunteers on this, not school night, Friday night, and they get to listen to music. Are there things specifically tailored to and catered to young adults that you'd be selling this to them as much or more than adults?
Yes, that has been very much an integral part of this program, I'd say, since at least since I started, we've made youth the primary component. So we're always looking to engage the young people as part of our History 10 efforts.
Thank you.
Okay, the work project.
Madam Chair, members of this commission, I believe we have a lot on the agenda tonight. So I'm not sure I have too much to update you with. However, I do want to touch on the master plan update effort. The citizen oversight group for that did meet on Tuesday, May 13th of this past month, and they focused on the environmental element of the master plan. They'll meet again on Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. So that effort is underway and making progress.
Very good, thank you.
Other than that, again, I think most things we have touched on this evening. If you have any questions for the department regarding anything on the work program, we'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Okay, if I just keep reading in depth in what we have in our hands.
Do make sure you RSVP if you plan to come to Mr. Scott's open house on June 7th, which is a Saturday. It will be a very nice occasion and an unveiling of his historic plaque on his historic home, which, by the way, did not get on our Wildwood register just because of its age. It had to go through that same 13 criteria, and I think we chose several of them. So it does have some significance to Wildwood. Thank you.
Okay, so that finishes us up on our discussion under old business, so we'll move on to new business. Commissioner Bork. Old Pond School Drawing Contest. This really sounds neat.
I'd update you on my youth project. So to kind of get things started, I created sort of an art competition, which I shared this flyer with a few local schools. And the art competition's for kind of a very young audience, grades 1 to 5. And it's about Old Pond schools. So they have like a prompt that they have to follow, and the rules aren't that strict. They're very kind of, I guess, vague and gives them a lot of freedom. And the idea for this first one is to hopefully like get an idea of what works and what doesn't for this competition. So students kind of can research about Old Pond School in their own way. I hope it's not too overwhelming for them. I try to keep the instructions very simple. And then they can create a drawing and submit it using the QR code. And then the ones that I feel are best will be featured in our video about Old Pond School. And the idea is to hopefully feature most of the drawings, unless we get like so many that like we can't, but hopefully we'll get kids really excited about Old Pond School and like the local history. And yeah, that's just an update on that. Everything is due May 31st for that. So hopefully by June, I can start getting started on the video and like editing everything together, and hopefully it'll all come together very nicely. Yeah. Any questions or comments?
What kind of feedback have you been getting so far?
So far I haven't gotten much. I reached out to Green Pines and Pond, and both of their like principals said that the students were very interested. So hopefully that's about what I've gotten.
If I may, I do know at least one coworker here in City Hall whose daughter has been working very hard on her submission and is very excited about it.
Yeah.
So what will happen to the art? And the reason I ask that is because I have 2 children's artworks framed in my house, and they're very evocative. They're gorgeous. And my little, I don't know what relation she is to me. She's my cousin's granddaughter, but she just won an art competition. She's in 3rd grade, and it's a beautiful, beautiful picture. And so you said that you are offering them a lot of latitude. So I'm sure some of the more creative kids are going to draw a bird behind, yeah, I mean, it's just going to be more than just 100 pictures of the school. And so my question is there any interest in like actually putting a price tag on some of these and having them at the plein air or anything like that? Or because we have an art show, it's called Plein Air, and or it could be out here in the lobby or in the community room or something like that. But I think some people, some kids might be disappointed because their pictures aren't that great and they think they are. You know how kids are. But I bet a couple of them could sell a picture and it might start them on their way to a career as an artist. So
I like that idea. I got definitely keep it in mind. This one's sort of like the tester, so maybe I'll see like how many people actually submit drawings and like what people like and don't like, and maybe for the next one I can add some stuff.
yeah, you can do like, yeah, sure. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you very much. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
And I skipped over the Memorial Tribute Program nominations. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay, Madam Chair. I was even going to ask you if I could have a chance to have some water before I spoke again, so this was a welcome break. Okay. Madam Chair, members of this commission, you may remember at our last meeting that we received the very sad news that Ms. Linda Hartkamp is stepping down from her position as president with the Wildwood Historical Society due to some health issues. However, as you may recall, we appreciated her so much that we delivered 2 cards, one telling her just how much we appreciated her, and one, of course, expressing our sympathies. Well, now we would like to more formally recognize Ms. Hartkamp for all of her hard work preserving Wildwood's history. Ms. Hartkamp, since taking leadership roles at Wildwood Historical Society, and first she was vice president and now she is, and then she was president for 3 years. She has been a tireless local history champion for both the commission and society. She sat on the dais with the commission for at least 2 years and rarely missed a meeting. Under her leadership, the Henkin House has been power washed and repainted. Wildwood Historical Society acquisitions have been organized, coded, entered into a database, and the commission and society have joined forces at planned events. The speaker lineup at the society has been phenomenal, and in general, the relationship between our 2 entities has grown in mutual respect and collaboration. The department is recommending to you this evening that Ms. Hartkamp be recognized as a champion of conservancy for the city of Wildwood, given her leadership with the Wildwood Historical Society, her very significant achievements, and her, being that bridge between the commission and the society's work. We think she is very worthy of that recognition and fulfills all of the criteria that private participants hold. And actually, I'll skip over my second point just to look at that criteria with you. She holds a leadership position with the Wildwood Historical Society. She helps manage the Wildwood Historical Society asset of the Henkin House, which is on the Wildwood Historic Register. And she's a regular attendee and participant at the city's Historic Preservation Commission meetings. Further, her volunteer work with the society has led to some significant contributions to the area's history. The work that she has done to enter all of that information into the database, while it sounds, it's a behind the scenes task, it is very important in preserving our local history. If this commission chooses to endorse this nomination, or make this nomination, I should say, the manner of recognition by the city would be a memorial brick at Old Pond School, small size, proclamation at City Council, and acknowledgement on the city's website. The department would respectfully request a motion or discussion from this commission regarding this nomination.
I so move.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
No.
Then I guess we're ready for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Anyone abstaining? Anyone against? We recommend this.
Thank you. Secondly, the department, in considering this nomination for Ms. Hartkamp, felt like it would be a very missed opportunity if the commission did not also take this time to recognize its enthusiastic, dedicated, and accomplished collaborator, Jill Von Gruben, archivist for the Wildwood Historical Society and author of the city's history book, Celebrate the History of Wildwood, Missouri. Ms. Von Gruben is another strong bridge builder between the society and commission, often having served as its liaison under prior presidents. Ms. Von Gruben, on behalf of the society, partnered with the commission and department over 8 years to complete the history book and conducted much of the behind-the-scenes planning for it. The book went on to be a success, receiving rave reviews from Wildwood residents and professional historians across the state, receiving a nomination for Missouri History Book of the Year, and being included in the book notes section of the July 2024 Missouri Historical Review, and now having a national platform by being housed in the research library for the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. Ms. Von Gruben has collaborated regularly with the commission on many of its projects beyond the history book, including the Wildwood Route 66 selfie tour video, the Wildwood Historic Communities map, and a National Register eligibility assessment of the Hankin House, in addition to signing books at the book tent at Celebrate Wildwood. Ms. Von Gruben has also written another book, Preserving Wildwood's History, before it was Wildwood, the Early Churches of Merrimack Township. And I believe that was actually nominated for Missouri History Book of the Year as well. Ms. Von Gruben is very much a strong contributor to this area's history. She also meets the criterion in the department's eyes of champions of conservancy. We believe that her role as archivist with the society and the leadership she has shown in her work with the city certainly merits this level of recognition. She is equally involved in taking care of the Hankin House as under the society's umbrella. She has been a regular attendee and participant in the commission's activities and in these meetings. And she's provided several written histories for the city that will have a lasting impact to our community. So we are asking you to give her that same recognition. It's not meant to detract in any way that we're recognizing both of these worthy women at the same time. But we felt like we would be amiss if we did not bring up Ms. Von Gruben as well. Thank you.
Again, I so move.
Okay, it's been moved that we do this for Jill Von Gruben. Is there a second?
I'll second that as well.
Is there any further discussion or question on this? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Anyone opposed or abstaining? We go forward with this as well.
Thank you. Oh, and we are looking to take this to the June City Council meeting for reasons of a needed expediency. So, and we will be doing proclamations at that time as well, assuming that both are available that evening. Thank you.
Thank you. The next thing is the Missouri Historic Preservation Symposium debriefing, which Robin and I attended in Jeff City.
All right, Madam Chair, members of this commission, I don't want to spend too much time. We still have a lot on the agenda and a special ceremony to do at the end. But Chair Stevens and I did have a very nice trip to Jefferson City. We experienced some very good presentations and information. I think more relevant than ever, Jefferson City's experience rebuilding its historic downtown probably has even more interest to us now, given our recent situation in St. Louis. But in 2019, a tornado damaged a large portion of their downtown area. And that was their historic downtown area. So we had a wonderful presentation at that time regarding what it took to come back from that and preserve some of the history that was still present. I don't think I did. I can email to the commission the presentation that was given because they are available for download now. I don't want to go too far into it because, again, I'm trying to get through the agenda. We heard from Riley Price of Missouri Preservation, reminding us of why historic preservation is important. We received a great handout that I highly encourage everyone take a look at, the standards for rehabilitation. These are the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, which are used in making appropriate choices for planning, repairs, alterations, and additions that may become a part of a rehabilitation project. By following these standards, that is the surest way of potentially getting grant funds for historic properties. So whenever we can, as a commission, if an owner's making those restorations, we really want to be advocating that they follow these standards, because that's ultimately going to help them in the end in terms of getting potentially financial support. And then finally, we learned a lot about the historic tax credit. I had no idea that Missouri apparently was one of the top states in the nation for using this historic tax credit to restore historic buildings. But we are, and St. Louis is actually #1, and Kansas City is not far behind it. We learned a lot about some proposed changes at the federal level that would make this historic tax credit easier to use with smaller projects and in rural areas, which, I'm thinking JP Connell House. So hopefully some of those changes do take root, because it could potentially help us with some of our projects down the line. But I have those handouts with this item in your packet, so feel free to look at them. I will share that Jefferson City presentation because it was a very good one. And that's what I have on the symposium. Chair Stevens, did you have any follow-up?
It was really a very interesting day, and they served wonderful food for lunch. You always have to think about the food. No, but it was very good. And as Robin and I drove up, we were less than impressed with the look of the building. We had not been to that particular one before. And I was thinking thoughts that I was going to keep to myself. But Robin came up, she goes, "It almost looks like a prison." And I laughed because that's what I was thinking as well. Well, it does not. We got inside and it was gorgeous. The whole back side of the building was glass, looking into a wooded area. And it was just gorgeous. They had sculptures in there. So the idea that it looked like a prison went right out of our minds because it didn't. But on the outside, that's the first thing that came. But
Don't
you
judge
can't
a book by its cover.
Thank you, Robin. Absolutely. Okay, and there was an announcement at that symposium about the Missouri Preservation Conference in October. Would you like to address that?
Absolutely. So we found out that the Missouri Preservation Conference is going to be held in St. Louis this year, October 1st through 3rd, which is a Wednesday through Friday. So they're given it will be much easier for this commission to attend logistically. We are strongly advocating, the department and the chair, that we think about attending this conference. And furthermore, the department is proposing that it conduct a session at this conference as well.
May I interrupt a moment? Where in St. Louis? Have they said?
They haven't said.
Okay, I can
I
pick up
will
on
share
it.
that information once I have
Okay.
it, but I haven't seen anything
Okay.
specific. This year, the theme of the conference is centered around the field of historic preservation as at a tipping point. As the world changes, what can we do to ensure preservation is more relevant, just and accessible resource? I felt that a lot of what this commission is doing fell right into that theme. And so I proposed that the commission and its partners and its youth participate in an all-star panel on why youth are the key, an intergenerational approach to historic preservation in Wildwood, Missouri. So I submitted a session. It will be about an hour and 15 minutes. I am waiting to hear back a response. The committee reviews it and lets me know, though I will say that Ms. Price was certainly enthusiastic. And I'm happy to say that Commissioners Bohr and Raghu-Raman have agreed to participate. Chair Stevens, our alternate Royals, Bonnie Roy and Scott Rundy with SWT Design, who worked with us on the Route 66 roadside park, are also going to participate. And I'm going to persuade our Rockwood partners to at least submit a video if they can't show up in person, because I would like a school district participant as well. So if you are interested in participating on our panel, I would certainly welcome you. I would just need a short biography from you as soon as possible to pass forward to Ms. Price. But we are hopeful. And if you're interested in learning more about what we're proposing, I've included the session proposal form in your packets this evening.
And, oh my, 2025 election of officers. Due to I'm at the end of the term limit, we have to have new officers. So do you want me to do proposal or do you want to do that?
Well, I would just. Oh, okay. Director Vunich is suggesting that Vice Chair Bockert should
He was
introduce
chairman,
this
correct.
item as chairman of the nomination committee.
It's almost embarrassing. You have before you this statement, and I'm going to ask you simply to read that if you have not previously read those 4 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs on the page, because it explains our dilemma at this particular juncture. And I will serve for those few months as the chair to allow us to get back into the schedule as such. You should know that I served 2 years as secretary and a year and a half now as vice chair in doing this, and I go off in October, at the end of October. So I won't be here any longer, but I am willing to take on the chair so that we can gain some additional members on our commission and hopefully have a wider pool to draw from by that juncture. Or to train some of the folks that are already here better to serve, because none of them have served as officers. And so I think it would be very helpful to at least have some folks that have some experience with the board, even though it's the most wonderful board in the world to serve on, because we have 2 of the most wonderful people doing all of the work. And it's always an honor to work with them because they do such a terrific job. So the question goes before you: are you willing to accept the nominating committee's suggestion that the officers for the next year be the persons named, and at which time the vice chair in October would take over as the chair appropriately as our Constitution indicates?
May I
Yes,
ask a
Rod?
question, please? Yeah. Why is it so difficult to amend the commission's bylaws? Because we have great people who do a great job and they're terming out, and that just doesn't seem right to me. Can Joe, you probably are the right person to answer that question.
Well, Dr. Ramber, you are correct. It just takes a simple majority of the commission members to amend our bylaws. But amending bylaws, it just makes it a little more difficult in terms of consistency. And so from the perspective of Mr. Bachert, when we had this discussion with the nominating committee, the thought was is bring stability and consistency over the course of the next few months. Allow the vice chair then to watch, learn, and then from that perspective, when we get to the first of the year, we'll be back into sequence. And then we'll make the nominations and take the vote. It'll carry us through 2026.
If we're struggling to find additional members, et cetera, it just seems like the bylaws may constrict that pool a little too much.
Well, fortunately, we'll be able to fill the officer slates as recommended from the nominating
right.
committee in the short term. Ms. Keefe and I had a conversation with Mary Garitano. I think we're on a good path to fill those vacancies very quickly.
Okay, so you guys feel good about this?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
At least I do. I can't speak for Ms. Keefe.
Okay. Okay. So I move that we approve the recommendations.
The motion has been made to approve the recommendation that Alan Bachert be the chair, Debbie Quarterneck, the vice chair, and Kurt Hensick, the secretary. Since this comes as a recommendation from the nominating committee, it does not need the second. So is there any discussion? It's also open for nominations from the floor. If anyone has a nomination they would like to make for one of these positions. Well, hearing none, take a vote on it. So all those in favor of this slate of officers, please raise your hand. Sure. We need you out there for a quorum, you know. Thank you very much. Anyone against or abstaining? Very good. We have a new slate of officers.
Thank you. I think.
It would require a proposal be placed on an election and the charter amended. And so that's a discussion for our city council and our mayor. Very much so. That's why the ARB has been changed to a maximum of 3 members. And if we can't fill with 3 residents, we can actually go out and engage an outside party that's an architect to participate. So that term limits for volunteers is, I think, probably one of the least appropriate things we've done with our charter.
Any other questions? Let's go back to the next thing that we're moving on to. Covered up my agenda. I can't do that. The review of proposed zoning and all those good things. Joe?
From the department's perspective, as you know, Mary Cliff residence is being removed for the direction of the property owner. Mr. Scott, Ms. Keefe, and I spent part of yesterday morning out there meeting with the demolition contractor and representatives of the Marinus Institute. We do appear to be able to salvage some of the building materials that we can actually use in our park system, and the potential of using the cedar shakes that form the exterior covering of the walls of the building or our shingles for the roof on Essen Log Cabin. The demolition permit has to be released no later than June 14th. So we tried, did our best, I think, as a group, but certainly there was just not a solution that was readily available. Is there any questions? The department would be glad to answer them.
Yes, Joe, what do you need from us?
I'm sorry.
What do you need from us?
Nothing, just this is an update so you know it's about to happen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Robin.
The next agenda item. Madam Chair, members of this commission, as you are probably aware by now, by the flurry of emails regarding advocacy efforts and updates, there is a lot happening at the federal level of our government impacting historic preservation. And some of these impacts are potentially going to impact the city and some of our activities as well. The White House has released its fiscal year 26 budget. This budget requests 158 million reduction in spending from the Historic Preservation Fund. If enacted, this budget would eliminate annual funding for SHPOs, which are State Historic Preservation Offices, including HPF grants or Historic Preservation Fund grants to CLGs, which we are one. And we presently have a grant as a CLG in our Historic Preservation Plan effort. Missouri SHPO is still waiting on the National Park Service to issue the notice of funding opportunity for it to apply for the funding for the fiscal year 2025 grants. This usually occurs between January and March, so it is abnormally late. As you may remember, the city did submit a grant application for some officer training, particularly for their attendance to the 2026 National Alliance of Preservation Commissions Conference. At this time, that may be impacted. Our currently awarded funds for the Historic Preservation Plan are not. Additionally, the White House budget is requesting $1 billion reduction in funding to the National Park Service. This funding reduction could impact the city's National Park Service grants and staffing of the Network to Freedom program. So we just wanted you to be aware of what is going on. Clearly, all of our partners are sending out information right now. I've sent that to you. I've forwarded it to you. They have various information associated with their efforts. So I just encourage you to stay abreast of what is going on because it does impact us here locally. And then finally, I've already talked about the Historic Tax Credit Growth and Opportunity Act of 2025. So I won't go into it again. However, there are hopefully positive changes to the historic tax credit being proposed, and that could potentially help us with projects like JP Connell House. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have skipped over the Connell House.
Oh, I did. I apologize. So the reason I skipped over the Connell House is because I didn't supply you with a memorandum. And the reason I didn't supply you with a memorandum is because I don't really have that much of an update for you. But I do have a good update because I'm not sure we've talked about it in a few meetings. The good update is that the Department of Planning has been meeting with the Wildwood Property Sanctuary every Wednesday at 5 p.m. to discuss status on their efforts to save historic properties in Wildwood. And their primary focus right now is on the JP Connell House. They did engage the owner of that property and submitted a potential offer to buy the property, which was, I wouldn't say accepted, but they are working on contracts right now. So it is moving forward. And that's all positive news because it means we don't have an immediate demolition on our hands and it looks like it's going to get bought. So that's my news at this time. Nothing is cemented yet. You know, the T's aren't crossed and the I's not dotted, or the I's not dotted, but you know what I mean. But things are moving forward in a positive direction.
It's always good to hear something positive. Bob,
Yes, thank you, Ms. Keefe. I haven't.
please use the microphone. Sorry.
I need one of those on my neck, my mouth, like a singer. Can you look at that seriously? Getting me one of these things that I wear? We could talk later.
Yeah, I'll chat with our city administrator on it.
This. See? It's been going on for a year. I have been tracking this very much because it seems like it's taking a wayward, and the owner seemed to have wanted to just tear it down. But that was all. I'd be enthused to know whether there's going to be a repurposing for this structure. If now that it sounds like the city's going to buy it, they've got to have something in mind for it.
The city is not going to buy it. These are private, it's a private entity. The Wildwood Property Sanctuary is under the Fabricators Foundation, which is headed by a gentleman, John Phillips, who's been collaborating with Carl Essen on these matters. So consider them the nonprofit historic preservation arm. Their mission is to save Wildwood's historic buildings. And they're collaborating with the city. So we're a partner in it, just in that we want to encourage the preservation of JP Connell House, but they are purchasing the property, not the city.
The zoning, is it support anything other than what its current use is, or has it got a variety of different potential uses? What is the zoning on that right now? Is it NU?
So the zoning on it right now is NU. And what could potentially be applied to this property, if the choice was to preserve the home and make it a historic landmark in Wildwood, we could potentially apply the historic land use category that is in our master plan to offer some flexibility in terms of zoning incentives to make that preservation project happen. So there is room for creativity on the property, but the city would be in control of what that looks like.
An arid question, perhaps. Is there anything more than a 0% probability that it'll be dismantled and rebuilt in Village Green, or just transported over level grade to Village Green? Or will it always be nothing more than a repurposing of its existing structure on the site?
The goal is to preserve the structure on the property it's on. In fact, I believe that the intention is to potentially, there's a lot of ideas being offered about the property, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But they originally approached the city about having an opportunity to potentially use the house as a gallery for historic artifacts and things having to do with historic preservation, while they worked on other efforts to restore historic structures in Wildwood. So they seem to have that focus, that mission in mind.
Thank you very much.
LaSalle Institute. Have a drink.
I've been there, done that. All right. We all have.
All right, Madam Chair, members of this commission, as you may be aware, it is certainly the hot topic right now in Wildwood. The LaSalle Institute recently came up for sale. The LaSalle Retreat Center, which was formerly the LaSalle Institute, is a local landmark and one of Wildwood's greatest historic treasures. It was opened in 1872 by the Christian Brothers and Catholics of St. Louis as the Orphan Protectorate, a charitable institution for the care of orphan boys. Now it is a peaceful and serene setting for retreats and gatherings, offering small and large meeting rooms, a chapel featuring floor-to-ceiling windows with an inspiring view, 2 dining rooms, and over 180 acres of grounds. The LaSalle Institute is a point of interest on the Wildwoods point of interest map. It's a prominent feature just to the south of LaSalle Middle School. As noted, it recently came for sale. In fact, Chair Stevens and I were at the symposium when we discovered this. The department has received a few inquiries since the sale. But we don't anticipate it's going to be a quick process. It doesn't sound like there's an immediate solution or immediate desire to jump on the property. Tonight, we put the item on the commission's agenda for discussion, just to give you an opportunity to offer your thoughts and feedback as in response to this recent development. I've included some background material in your packets this evening as well. Thank you.
So my only question in reading your information there is the cemetery that's on the property. Do you know, like, what would, if they sold that to developers or whatever happened to it, would they, just perimeter that off, or what would you think they'd do with the cemetery?
There's two cemeteries there.
The actual offering of the property protects the cemetery. So any buyer has to acknowledge from day one that the cemetery is protected. Obviously, we've had some conversations with the broker, and we advise them that the grottos and some of the other improvements on the site are as equally important to the city. So we're positioning ourselves to not necessarily be an impediment, but we want them to understand it's just not business as usual.
And I believe there are two cemeteries there. There's one behind the retreat center where many brothers are buried. And then there's the one down closer to the road, which I believe is connected to a church. So it's two up.
Talk about any plan and have sale. Yeah. Was there any talk about what their plans would be after the sale of that?
The broker was not necessarily forthcoming on a lot of information, other than that they do understand that there is the historic land use category in our master plan, and it's a partnership if utilized, meaning the city would expect certain steps to be taken to protect the integrity of the asset, while allowing some development to occur more so than, let's say, 1 unit for every 3 acres of ground.
Hate to see a hillside full of houses there.
You say.
Under the current zoning, the primary use would be residential, single-family detached on 3-acre lots or greater.
Yeah, there's 3 acres minimum there.
I'm sorry.
There's 3 acres minimum there, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
6.
Yes, it's the non-urban resident district.
For the
All right, let the farewell party begin.
Well, that little piece of information just took the wind out of the sail.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of this commission. Chair Stevens came into her current role with the commission just a month or so after I started as a planner with the city of Wildwood. I couldn't have asked for a better leader, co-conspirator, or friend. We were aligned in many ways, both having a background in education and a passion for engaging younger generations in history and heritage and local government. What I especially loved about Jan was that she was always willing to jump in the deep end with me for every crazy idea, such as forming a task force of students who met monthly separately from the commission, and then every crazy idea that resulted from that engagement, just from bringing all those people, young minds, enthusiasm together. Such as filming a 30-minute selfie tour video, planning and executing 2 Route 66 events, creating a Hot Wheels track of our Route 66 and a zombie beanbag toss, and hosting 4 times the amount of history tents in 1 year. She showed up and championed every one of these activities, bringing her support and energy and unwavering dedication and decorum, and many of her own creative ideas as well. But there is something else that I admire in Jan, and that is her aptitude for instilling both a sense of ceremony and seriousness to this commission's proceedings while keeping the group fun and engaging. Her remarks are always astute, timely, and on point, and her outfits are memorable. But more than that, she has been the heart and soul of this commission. And while I know there are individuals, worthy individuals, who will step up and fill that space, it will certainly be a tall order. Under Jan's leadership, this commission has received several prestigious awards for its efforts and has offered recognition and support to the efforts of others as well, including the Route 66 Student Task Force via City Proclamation, Paul Wachowski, Judy Somm, Larry Thompson, and now Linda Hartkamp and Jill Von Gruben under the Commission's Memorial Tribute Program, Nolan Myers in the form of a letter of recommendation from this commission, and the local men who served in the United States Colored Troops via historic marker and others. Jan knows that it is this celebration that keeps the momentum alive, the energy up, and reminds everyone that this work is just so important. And so now it's time to celebrate you, Chair Stevens, in the form of this special video presentation. Thank you for being a dear friend.
Hi there, I'm Jan Stevens, and I've lived in Wildwood since before the incorporation in 1995. I'm also chairman of Wildwood's Historic Preservation Commission. Preserving history is really important to me, especially local history. My fourth great grandfather, Ninian Bell Hamilton, was one of the first Euro-Americans into the area of Wildwood.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down a road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant. I'm not ashamed to say, I hope it always will stay this way. My hat is off, won't you stand up and take a bow? And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, well, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. 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 If it's a car you lack, I'd surely buy you a Cadillac. Whatever you need, any time of the day or night. I'm not ashamed to say, I hope it always will stay this way. My hat is off, won't you stand up and take a bow? into the night, the Milky Way. Tell you about a friend. I wanna thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you for being a friend. Whoa, tell you about a friend right now. Thank you for being a friend. Tell you about a pal, and I'll tell you thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend.
Thank you. Well, I have one last remark. Thank you for allowing me, a tree, to be with you this evening. So many of my ancestors, cousins, and siblings live here in Wildwood. They speak of you often. I'm so glad to have been able to meet everyone. Marcus Garvey has stated, "A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without its roots."
Thank you for being a friend.
Okay.
Thank you. Boy, my mouth is always open, isn't it? And speaking my mouth open, I have a presentation. Mr. Barker, would you rise, please? Thank you. You have the power now. And, you know, things come up, so you always got Robert.
Absolutely. We'll have a new parliamentarian. You have a presentation to make right now? Okay, then I won't adjourn.
I'd like to take a moment at the closing of this term to comment on a subject that to you may not be clear. The question is more complex than at first it may appear. Just why is it the group leaders are also called the chair? The one who thought that title up must surely be aware it does not boast one's ego to be likened to a chair. It's true, one may be well upholstered, overstuffed, or bare. She'll catch up with me in a minute. There we go, okay. Just between us, I don't think I look like a chair. The problem really puzzled me, then finally grew clear. A conscientious leader must function like a chair. Some chairs are only beautiful. They're delicate and rare. But the kind I refer to is the ordinary chair. It's coming. Can anyone imagine an object anywhere that is more downright useful than the ordinary chair? A chair should never squeak or sag or in any way complain, but just go on functioning no matter what the strain. A chair must be efficient and equal to the task of sometimes being sat upon by some well-meaning lass or lad. A chair should be dependable and always well aware. It's awfully hard to sit upon a chair that isn't there. A chair should not seek privileges that it does not deserve, but should remember at all times it's only there to serve. The proper chair will not collapse when burdened with a care, but stand upon its sturdy feet and calmly bear its share. At last, there comes the moment when with worn and weary face, the chair must tactfully take off and find a corner place. It needn't seek retirement in corners dark with gloom. Just clear a place for fresher chairs that come to grace the room. I hope I've served you well and never let you down, for surely I'm the luckiest of all the chairs in town. You've sat upon me most gently through the terms of use, and I honestly can testify I've never known abuse. I'll cherish every spot on me that you have given wear. And so, to close these thoughts to you, I give you much love, appreciation, and admiration. Thank you. Bye.
Jan, thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry.
I stand adjourned, but you may speak. Oh,
Okay. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you these past years. And again, as I say to all my first responders, thank you for your service.
we all agree.
I think our new chair needs your free suit.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh, he,
Hey, that's
my new
fair. I saw it.
chairman needs to adjourn us. We want to report on it next month.
So bad. I won't sleep.